Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. Now, we're looking at something literally every single homeowner in Jefferson County needs to know about. You know, Louisville is absolutely stunning. We've got those incredible historic neighborhoods, gorgeous mature trees, the beautiful riverfront. But beneath all that charm, well, it's actually a hidden battleground for your home's plumbing. So today, we're taking some incredible insider insights from the folks at Victory Plumbing Louisville, and we're transforming them into your ultimate survival guide against catastrophic water damage. Let's get to it.
Here's the game plan for this guide. First up, we'll cover Louisville's unique plumbing nightmares. Second, we're diving into common household plumbing casualties. Number 3, we'll look at the Victory Plumbing difference. Fourth is their simple 3-step process. And finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with codes, permits, and protection.
All right, Section 1, Louisville's unique plumbing nightmares. We really need to understand the specific environmental and geographical forces that put local pipes under a constant year-round siege.
Because, honestly, there is literally no off-season for plumbing stress in this city. It's just a relentless year-round assault. Think about the winter season. Temperatures drop below freezing 60 to 70 days a year. That causes the water inside exposed pipes, especially in those cold crawl spaces and exterior walls, to freeze, expand, and just completely split your copper lines or crack PEX fittings. No fun. Then, spring season hits. Heavy rainfall easily overwhelms French drains and basement sump pumps, especially if you're in one of those low-lying areas down near the Ohio River. Moving into the summer season, you've got the Ohio River Valley's infamous high humidity, which actually accelerates corrosion in older galvanized supply lines. And then finally, the fall season. Those wild temperature swings we get, they cause materials to constantly expand and contract, which really stresses and eventually cracks pipe joints.
But hey, the climate? That's really only half the battle. Your specific neighborhood pretty much dictates the rest. Depending on when your home was built, you're facing some hyper-local vulnerabilities. Like, if you live in a pre-1950s home in Old Louisville, Cherokee Triangle, or Crescent Hill, your prime threats are aging cast iron chain stacks, which literally corrode from the inside out, and cracked clay sewers that are super susceptible to root intrusion from all those beautiful mature trees. Now, if you move to that 1960s to 1990s era, places like St. Matthews, Douglas Hills, or Springhurst that were built on former farmland, you're fighting high water tables, chronic basement dampness, and transition materials, like failing ABS drains. What if you're in a post-1990 home out in Middleton or Prospect? You'd think newer means safer, right? Well, actually, scratch that. Rapid construction back then often meant shortcuts, like improperly supported PEX pipes and undersized drain vents. And finally, in mixed-era spots like Shively or Valley Station, you've got proximity to the Ohio River bringing floodplain backups and obsolete industrial materials into the mix.
And on top of the weather and the soil, there's this unseen, totally silent chemical threat running right through your pipes. Louisville's municipal water supply, which gets treated at the B.E. Payne water treatment plant, is packed with minerals. This hard water leaves severe scale buildup in your water heaters and fixtures. It reduces appliance efficiency, creates those really stubborn, frustrating clogs and aerators, and leaves showerheads looking like, well, crusty science experiments all over the metro area.
Okay, moving on to Section 2. Common household plumbing casualties. We're shifting our focus from the broad environmental causes outside to the actual physical plumbing failures happening right inside Jefferson County homes.
Which brings us to the classic, high-stakes question that absolutely plagues local residents every single spring. Why does my basement flood during heavy rain in Louisville? I mean, it is a homeowner's worst nightmare, and understanding the why here is the absolute first step to surviving it.
So the really crucial point to grasp here is that it's rarely just one single issue. It's usually a combination, a perfect storm, if you will. It often starts with poor yard grading that acts like a giant slide, directing rainwater straight into your foundation instead of away from it. Add in clogged or broken gutters that just overflow right next to your basement walls. Then you have the sheer force of hydrostatic pressure, which is literally groundwater being pushed right up through the concrete of your basement floors. Combine all that with overwhelmed municipal storm sewers that can back up into your drains, and Louisville's notoriously heavy clay soil expanding and contracting, literally cracking your underground lines. And if your sump pump happens to fail right in the middle of all this, yeah, you are underwater.
And here's the thing, basement flooding doesn't just come from the rain outside. Remember that hard water scale buildup we just talked about? It absolutely destroys tank water heaters. Most of these units in Louisville fail between years 8 and 12. When they finally corrode through and rupture, they can dump up to 50 gallons of water straight into your home. Think about that for a second. 50 gallons. To put that into perspective, that's basically a kiddie pool suddenly emptying straight out onto your drywall and flooring.
So, how do we actually fight back? That leads us to Section 3, the Victory Plumbing difference. We're looking at their service model not as a sales pitch, but as the absolute gold standard playbook for navigating these specific, localized crises.
Because there's a really stark difference between local expertise and generic big box service. Imagine a pipe bursts at 2 a.m. National franchises are probably going to route you to an out-of-state call center, where the person on the other end doesn't know the difference between Old Louisville and Prospect. Victory Plumbing, on the other hand, uses local Jefferson County dispatch. They know exactly what neighborhood you're calling from and the typical plumbing era of your home. Plus, national franchises often just carry generic parts, which means they have to order materials and leave you hanging. Victory's trucks are fully stocked for both historic cast iron systems and modern PEX setups, so they can fix it in one visit. And instead of getting hit with surprise invoices, Victory operates with upfront, totally transparent written pricing.
I actually really love this direct quote from Victory's operational guidelines because it provides such vital reassurance when you're in the middle of a super stressful emergency. They say, you approve the total cost for parts and labor before we pick up a wrench. That's huge. No hidden fees, no random weekend trip charges tacked on at the very end. If the scope of the job changes, they stop and get your approval on the revised pricing first. It's 100% transparent.
All right, Section 4, the simple three-step process. Let's walk through the exact operational playbook required to successfully save a property during a plumbing crisis.
What's really great about this structure is that it ensures a permanent, code-compliant fix rather than just a sloppy, temporary patch. Step 1 is diagnosis and assessment. A licensed plumber arrives, assesses the issue, often using high-tech stuff like moisture meters and camera inspection equipment to avoid unnecessarily tearing up your walls, and gives you that written estimate. Step 2 is repair and installation. Once you approve it, they use professional-grade materials to complete the job. And they do it while putting down floor protection and wearing shoe covers to respect your space. Finally, Step 3 is testing and warranty. Before they ever pack up their tools, they pressurize the system, run the water, and make absolutely sure it functions perfectly under normal conditions.
Now, having a great process is awesome, but speed is quite literally everything when water is actively destroying your home. The critical takeaway here is their emergency response time. For active water damage, a sewage backup, or a gas leak, they dispatch within 60 minutes. They arrive with water extraction equipment ready to, stop the bleeding immediately. That is what prevents a minor crisis from turning into a major, incredibly expensive structural renovation.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, Codes, Permits, and Protection. We're transitioning to the vital, and honestly often overlooked, bureaucratic side of plumbing that legally protects your property value.
I know. A lot of people hear the word codes and immediately roll their eyes, thinking it's just annoying government red tape. But the Kentucky State Plumbing Code is actually the essential armor protecting your home investment. It's the legal standard that adopts the International Plumbing Code, adds some state-specific amendments, and is strictly enforced by Louisville Metro. It dictates the really important stuff, like proper slope measurements for drains, venting requirements so deadly sewer gases don't sneak into your house, and absolutely crucial safety devices.
And to enforce those codes, you need permits. Here is exactly what legally requires a permit from Louisville Metro. Water heater replacements, installing fixtures in new locations, any supply line repiping, drain line modifications, sewer lateral repairs, and absolutely any gas line work. Listen, if a contractor ever offers to do these jobs without pulling a permit just to save you a little money, run the other way. Unpermitted work can completely derail a future home sale, it can void your homeowner's insurance during a flood claim, and it leaves you legally liable for any code violations. Just don't do it.
But when the work is done right, up to code, and properly permitted, you get something invaluable: total peace of mind. Professional work means guaranteed repairs. You get a full 1-year labor warranty on workmanship defects. Plus, proper installation ensures that the manufacturer warranties on your expensive new fixtures or water heaters remain completely valid and fully protected.
Which leads us to this final, somewhat provocative thought. I want you to really look at this question. Is your home's plumbing ready for its next Louisville stress test? We know those freezing winters are coming. We know the torrential spring rains and shifting clay soils will absolutely be back. The elements are going to test your infrastructure, no doubt about it. Don't wait for a 2 a.m. pipe burst or a basement full of water to discover your system's weak points. Use the knowledge from this guide, understand your own neighborhood's unique vulnerabilities, and make sure you have a trusted local professional ready to defend your home. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.